reliability, like when you have these credit card transactions taking place, you make sure that the transaction goes successfully, and if there is a power outage or something, a rollback takes place, and that sort of thing.
Okay, you mentioned the keyword there, rollback, right? And that's something that definitely, whenever you do a backup for any system, right, you want to make sure that if something happens, you can roll back to the point it was backing up from, right? You want to make sure that so you know the information you have is accurate. It's not infected by any other intruder or anybody else. So you are close, but again, that's what it is. Government agencies, and the next slide I'll have more precise definitions of assurance, which is government agencies that use information assurance because they want to make sure that it's all about a phishing attack. Anybody know fish attack? What is the fish attack in the information security? Fish attack is like, okay, let's suppose I try to go to rbc.ca, right? And yeah, so I go to rbc.ca to do some transaction, right? And then I'm doing it, I'm putting my password, putting my username, right? Doing my transactions, right? Thinking that I'm on RBC site, but that's the fish attack, which means actually I'm not on RBC site, I'm on some other site, which look like an RBC site. And I'm putting all my information in and doing all that transaction, right? So that's a fish attack. So which in that attack, you want to make sure those attacks fall under the information assurance criteria, where those attacks happens, where you want to make sure that you are on the right site, and that site is authorized to do whatever you're supposed to do, which is like, as you mentioned, about doing transactions, right, with your credit card, or doing online banking, right? That's what it is. So the next slide, we'll talk more about that, what exactly we have discussed before. So that way you have more understanding. Again, computer security, we've talked about it before. It's more about a host. So more about storing information and processing information. It's more of an operation work, right? It's more of an operation work. When I say operation, it's more of day-to-day work. It's not a projectized work. Because when we talk about a projectized work, a projectized computation, it means like it start and it has a definite start and end. But operations is more like day-to-day. So information security, computer security, and information assurance. These are the three sort of branches that you can think information security can be. And again, you can think about, okay, should I be focusing more on assurance? Then you're going to be looking into certification like CISA, where you go more assurance, right? Where you have an overview of what exactly information system looks like, right? Start from the end, from how it all started, and where exactly it's going to get deployed, and testing phase, and all the phases in the PDLC lifecycle, right? And then moving around, information assurance, and this is what we have talked about. The example was the bank, again, financial institutions, corporations, military, right? Those about where the information assurance used as an asset, because information is an asset, right? You don't want to make sure and you do want to make sure that information asset is not being breached, is not being taken up from somebody else you don't want. So that's more important for you, right? That's the assurance part. And the last piece, information security, that's why we all are here. And again, these three terms are kind of interrelated, but can be differed from by the means of, okay, what angle you're looking security from. You're looking security from an information perspective, or from more like a perspective where there's assurance, where there's, PCI compliance. Anybody know about PCI compliance? Yeah. Yeah. So PCI compliance is pretty much, if, let's suppose, there's a company X, and the company mentioned I am PCI compliant, so it means that you should be okay. Like, let's suppose me being a client or me being a customer, I'm okay, or I'm satisfied that the company I'm doing a transaction is PCI compliant, which means that PCI has a lot of standards and rules, right, that company needs to follow. And so I'm okay with sliding my card under that company name for any transaction and making sure that the company is PCI compliant. Most of the credit cards, if let's suppose you want to open a credit card today, your company needs to be PCI compliant in order for you to accept the transaction from the customer. And PCI compliance, again, set of rules and standards that your company must have in order for that transaction to be safe and reliable, right? That's what it is. PCI compliance is going to fall into the assurance piece, where information is get transferred from customer to the company and in secure manner, right? Any questions so far? You're okay? Okay, this is more a broader explanation for information security, where business continuity planning, forensics, infrastructure security. I mean, these are the fields you can think of if you want to go in information security. You can be, a security analyst. You can be a security specialist. You can be infrastructure security specialist, right? And depending on your experience and your what exactly you would like to do, because that's more important. And then also the PCP, which is the acronym for business continuity planning, is really important these days, because everybody want to make sure that their business is going to be up and running if something happens, right? That's why you have offices in offshores. That's why you have some offices in North America, and you have some offices in, let's say, Dallas, right? So you want to make sure that if something happens, and if there's an earthquake in Dallas, you want to make sure that the data is protected. The only way it can be protected is by BCP, business continuity planning. You must have all the planning ready. Just think of a fire drill, right? Whenever there's a fire, if you have, and you must have fire drills pretty much maybe, once in 4 months or once in 6 months, right? Where, and I know nobody likes it. I hate it really big time, because I always try to make sure that whenever there's a fire drill, I'll find out beforehand and try to go to work late instead of doing 9:30, because they usually have the fire drill 9 o'clock, 9:30, and then you're gonna have to go through the whole stress of leaving your work, going outside, leave the building, standing out there in the cold for 30 minutes and then come back up. That's what it is. It's more of PCP. I mean, you want to make sure that if something happens, you have a plan on hand to deal with. If there is some disaster happen where, let's suppose if there's if God forbid there's a disaster in Dallas, right, where there's an earthquake, and you have your data center there, right? In your data center, you have all the customers' and client data, right? And then if something happens, and then you want to make sure that that data is accessible. If that data is destroyed over there just because of